to extract that energy out of the oxygen, and in the process, fat is used up and burned away. So that's a process that we know as aerobic. Next one. So then the bottom line is the energy that's trapped in the oxygen molecules, that's what we're trying to get. And we can also get the oxygen, the energy that's trapped in the oxygen molecules is actually electrons or negative charges. That's what our body's looking for because we're electrical. We need those negative charges. So we're looking always for somewhere to get them, and oxygen is our biggest source for our negative charges. We can also get it from the sunlight, but we just can't take sunlight, and eat it. So we have to get the electrons out another way. A person that is able to be the best at doing this, at utilizing oxygen, is the person that's going to be the leanest. They're going to win the race. They're going to live the longest because they're aerobic. So as long as they're burning fat, they're aerobic and they're using oxygen. And that's how we're designed. The next one is a picture of my dog because, she lays out, this is like in August last year, or a couple of years ago, and she made a choice to lay in the sun. Even though it was, triple digits weather, she made a choice to lay in the sun. Like Ray was talking about the lions this morning, they eat their prey and then they go lay in the prairie, and they usually lay in the sun. Occasionally they'll lay in the shade, but most of the time animals like to lay in the sun. So what they're doing is they're soaking up the photons from the sun, which are negative charges. So we're after those negative charges, bottom line. If we don't have them, the voltage in our body drops. And then things happen like cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, all the main thing, overweight, obesity. All those things happen when we don't get a negative charge, enough charge, and we can't fuel that fat burning to make energy. This is just kind of a graph of how it works. Are my slides different than yours? Oh, shoot. Okay, the one with the bar chart? Yep. Okay, that one, this actually came from a group that I'm in. It's an oxygenation doctors group. And you may have heard of ozone or hyperbaric chambers. I mean, that's just putting pressure in at high pressure, trying to get oxygen into your tissue where fat can use it to make energy, and in the process fat is burned and a lot of energy is produced. So when we're all healthy, even though the title of this says the aging process, it's also the process of disease, the process of obesity. You're going from, it's like a continuum. You're going from aerobic to anaerobic. We want to be aerobic. And if you look at the fat and the yellow glucose, that is the amount that we use oxygen. We can burn fat with oxygen, or we can burn sugar with oxygen. So that together is our aerobic capacity. Then we have a little bit in the red, that anaerobic ability left over from prehistoric times, where we can still make a little bit of energy. It doesn't last long. So if you're stuck in a coal mine or somebody's suffocating you, your heart will beat for a while, a couple of minutes. So you have a little bit, 2-3 minutes, that maybe you can still stay alive anaerobically because you don't have any oxygen. But our bodies like to live aerobically. So, and we primarily burn fat for that. So this is when you're normal and healthy, and it doesn't matter your age because you can still be older and be like this. Okay, as you see it progress, here the aerobic part is you got the fat and the yellow sugar, and it's still the same level, but you can see behind the scene is not much fat is being burned. It's mostly sugar. So we see people at this stage and sometimes at this stage. So in the second stage, the people are starting to complain that they're gaining fat. Okay, so they're saying, well, I still eat the same as I used to, but I don't know why I'm getting fat now. And it's because they're not burning much fat, but they're craving carbs too. So they're starting to complain of gaining weight, of craving carbs, and of being tired, because you don't make as much energy with sugar as you do with fat. You make almost 3 times as much energy with fat than sugar. And then aerobically, you make barely any, just a couple of minutes worth. Okay, so then when it progresses to here, you can see that the whole aerobic capacity went down. So now you just have this much, just the fat and the sugar, and the whole thing has even dropped. So now this person is actually making less energy, and they're primarily aerobic. So this is when you're going to start having pre-diabetes. They're definitely obese by this point because they're mostly just living off of sugar. They're hardly even utilizing fat at all. And the reason why is because they don't have enough oxygen. So I'm going to tell y'all today ways that you can get more oxygen into your tissue, that stuff that's in your control. And then by the time it gets to here, that's aging or disease. I mean, and the classic anaerobic diseases are cardiovascular disease and cancer, which are our top two killers, and diabetes is definitely anaerobic. So that is, and then you can see the total energy production has gone down. So these oxygenation doctors are calling it the aging process, but it's because old people just want to lay around, they don't have much energy. They may not be overweight because they don't eat much, but they're still anaerobic. Okay, so that's the whole name of the game, is you have to stay aerobic. And what's happening is we're losing that ability to stay aerobic. And why that is, I think is going to be this slide, if we have it. Okay, in your handout, I think it's the second page. Okay, those items on the second page are what is in your control. Those are like when somebody has a problem, like they have, they go to the doctor for something. Usually the doctor will pick one of these things and they just happen to get better, but the doctor unknowingly increased oxygen utilization. Because when you have oxygen, everything's good. When you have a lack of oxygen, that's when bad things happen. Infections, diseases, tiredness, because you can't make enough energy. Okay, so those things are the items that are in your control. So we're just going to kind of go through each of them. The first one is the nutrient. Well, I'm not going to do the first one. That's the first one on your list, not the first one on the slide. But the first one on the list is there you go. Is the nutrient deficiencies. If you're not sure if you're eating, most people know if they're eating good or bad, but nutrient deficiencies are a big one that we can control because we eat so many times a day and we have a choice over what we can eat. And we can also test for nutrient deficiencies. There's a micronutrient test that's been around for probably about 28 years. It was a technology from the University of Texas, and the lab happens to be here in Houston. It's the only lab in the nation that does this test. And they charge about, with insurance, like $290 for the test. And it will test for about 35 different critical nutrients that your body has to have in order to make energy and for biochemical processes to happen. So that's one you can easily test for and see, instead of taking a bunch of supplements that you don't know if you need. Most people do need supplements, but you can actually pinpoint which ones you need, so you don't buy stuff you don't need and you just take just what you do need until you can get your levels up. Then you don't need those supplements anymore if they're just for supplementation reasons. There are some things that we actually don't consider supplements, like our omega oils, vitamin D, and the minerals, because those we can just consider as part of our food bill, because we can't get those from our food anymore. We don't get adequate levels from our food, so we have to supplement those things. But other than that, everything else would just be a supplement, and you just use it until you get over the hump of whatever the reason is why you're depleted in that supplement or that nutrient, and then you don't have to use that one anymore. So you don't really need to be on a lot of things unless there are reasons. So I don't like to suggest that people take supplements unless there's a reason, either a symptom or a value on a lab test that shows a deficiency. This is actually just a list of toxins. The next item on your list is toxicity, and if you have toxins in your body, you're going to harbor fat cells. Your body's going to make fat cells because just about every toxin, everyone that I know of, is fat soluble. That means it likes to be in fat. So your body makes fat cells to keep those toxins in the fat cells away from the organ, so they can't hurt you. So sometimes if we just can detox people, and especially the people that say, I just want to lose 10 pounds. that little bit left is usually due to toxicity. And then people that are obese, there's toxicity there too. So that's always a good start when you're trying to lose weight, or the last bit. If you just can't ever seem to lose that last 10 pounds, then it's probably, if you do a good detox, you can probably get rid of that. And then people that are in the obese percentage, they definitely have toxins. And if they would get rid of some of the toxins, they can lose, could be even 30 pounds of fat just from getting rid of the toxins. And what detoxes us is our liver. So we need to treat our liver, with care and take care of it. There's ways that you can support your liver if it's being overloaded. And we can tell from a blood test if liver enzymes are high, then there's inflammation in the liver. And the liver has two big jobs to do. It burns fat and it makes sugar. So we want it to burn fat more than it has to make sugar. So we need to keep it in good shape. And things that can happen after you do a detox is you'll see weight loss, you'll lose some inches, you'll definitely reduce inflammation, have an increased energy, sleep better, and mood is better because of the toxins being gone. Muscle is, like Ray was saying, it's a super important part of our tissue. And it's one of the most unappreciated tissues. It's a huge metabolic machine. Our resting metabolic rate can increase just by increasing muscle. Muscle takes a lot of energy to keep itself alive. It's a big mouth to feed. This is actually somebody that was way overweight. She was probably about 5'5" maybe, and she weighed about 250 pounds. And then she lost about 110 pounds, didn't she?
On the left, she diet restricted alone through Weight Watchers, and they don't promote exercise. And about a year and a half later is that picture on the right.
Yeah, she did a lot of cardio, but no weight training. So she just got kind of saggy skin because she lost the support underneath it, but she lost a lot of weight. She just she wasn't toned. So then she started weight training, and she was able to keep the weight off, by maintaining her diet and just weight training alone, not doing any cardio. So she quit doing the cardio and just maintained on the weight training and a decent diet. Muscle, besides being a huge metabolic machine, it determines our ability to use glucose. The muscles are the only tissue really that loves sugar because we need sugar to make a muscle contract. And no other tissue likes sugar. Sugar is toxic for everything else. But muscle loves sugar. So you have to make the muscle want the sugar by putting it under load. So when you do, lift, push and pull heavy things, the muscle has to contract. So then the next time you eat, the muscle says, well, I'm on to you. I know you're going to weight train again 2 days from now because you do it like every other day. So next time you eat, I'm going to put the sugar in the muscle. And then I'll be ready, so then I can contract next time you need me to. The body tries to do what you ask it to do. So the muscle will actually become more insulin sensitive, so it can take more sugar in. So that's why athletes can eat more carbs, because there's a place for it to go and a place for it to be used. It's also where fat is burned. Fat is burned in the muscle and it's burned in the liver. So those are two big reservoirs that we can call on to help us stay lean. So muscle definitely is your friend. It's one of the hallmarks of aging. It's called sarcopenia, where there is muscle loss. And that would be your third item on the list. So just from the first three things, that nutrient deficiencies, which water is included in that. We see a lot of dehydrated people. And you can even be dehydrated drinking crappy water. So we like people to drink good spring or artesian well water because it's charged. So we actually have live water. And that's when these raw foodies and these food crazy people talk about live food. They're really talking about, does it have electrons? Is it charged? And things that, animals and plants will actually absorb the photons from the sun, and they're actually a stored form of sunlight. So instead of us, eating sunlight, we just eat the plants and animals that have absorbed the sunlight, and we get charges from that, from the food, and we also get charges from the oxygen. and that's how we burn fat. Do you have this one? I don't think I should have. Metabolic syndrome is a collection of symptoms or a collection of measurements that, like the waist circumference in men being over 40 or in women being over 35, triglycerides being high. You know, I like to see triglycerides in the double digits, not in the triple digits. The cholesterol being high, blood pressure going up, and the fasting blood sugar more than 100. So when you have that collection of values that are off, the medical industry calls that metabolic syndrome, and that's the kind of the first kind of entry point to getting you closer to cardiovascular disease or cancer or diabetes. Just about any chronic disease that we can prevent starts with these numbers getting off, and that's why your doctor goes crazy and wants to give you prescriptions to get these things down, but you don't really need prescriptions for that. Muscle, this is just kind of a picture somebody sent me. The top is the Victoria's Secret models. They go calorie restriction. They just diet, and they just kind of starve themselves skinny, versus a physique competitor, they're actually eating more, and they're muscular. So their body fats are actually less. At the top picture, I bet their body fat, some of them are in the maybe 20% because they're lack of muscle, and you'll have the competitor's body fat percentage will be less than 10.
It looks better too.
Yeah, and they don't do any cardio except when they're trying to lean down for a contest. Stress is a big item. That's why it's on here, and there's a lot of things that your body will interpret as stress. Prehistorically, we're programmed for survival, and the two biggest threats to survival are starvation and infection. You know, if you get bit by a wild animal, if you're a cave person, or stuck with your spear, there's a chance you could get infected. So that's a stress to our body. So anything that's perceived as a stress, the same biological response happens. We get a cortisol release and adrenaline release. And these are meant to be life-saving. And they are life-saving, but they're not meant to be chronic. You get over the hump, you get over the infection, or you get over the stress, and then those numbers should go back down. Those levels of those hormones or neurotransmitters should go back down. But in our day, everything's a stress. I mean, you're late for a meeting, you're at a red light, there's a train or whatever, your kids have problems, you're flunking out of school, whatever the problem is, it's all stress. And it doesn't have to be mental. It can be any of the things on this list. Hypoglycemia is one of the biggest stresses that there is. Infections. We see a lot of people that can't lose weight, and I'll do a stool test on them, and I'll see, strep infection in their gut or parasites that they don't even know they have, but they're keeping this chronic, low-grade infection that is a stress for their body. So they stay in a chronic stressed state and don't even realize it. And anytime any of these stressful things happen, your body shuts down fat burning, and you only can fuel that stress process with sugar. So you're going to crave, when you're stressed out, you want to eat all the candy bars, and you just crave sugar. So any of these things are in your control, and if you identify them, then, like if you have an infection, we can identify that and get rid of it to help you lose weight again. Sleep deprivation, that's a stress. Ischemia, like maybe somebody that has maybe congestive heart failure, or ischemia means you're just not getting enough oxygen to a tissue. And if that tissue doesn't get enough oxygen, it will die, like frostbite. So that would be an ischemic tissue. Hypoxia would be a lower amount of oxygen. It's like you could all experience that if you go to, like we're at below sea level here, but if you go up into the high mountains of Colorado, you could have trouble breathing because there's not as much oxygen above you because you're higher up. Well, there's a little state of hypoxia, but your body adapts to that, and you make more red blood cells, and you adapt to it, and your oxygen levels go back up again. But there are some people that stay hypoxic, like asthmatics and people that have COPD or emphysema. if there's any reason why you're not able to breathe deeply and get that oxygen into your tissue, that could be a reason that you'd be hypoxic. Well, that's a form of stress. The next thing would be hormone deficiencies. I'm actually certified in advanced hormone optimization. This lady over here is a nurse practitioner. She also does hormone optimization at her clinic. This is something that we definitely can control. It's easy. It just takes minutes a day. Diet is probably the hardest thing because it's something that you have to stay good, and there's so much distraction and temptation. You know, at every red light or stop sign, there's a place you can eat. But that food is not nutritious. The negative charges and the electrons are not in it. So that is a reason why we can drop our oxygen utilization, because we're not able to get those nutrients in. Okay, so hormone optimization is a big thing because hormones drive everything. They're the signal for fat burning. If the hormones are not